Hello, ladles and jelly spoons. It is the next morning. We are approximately 18 hours after I put the dough in the refrigerator yesterday. So we are getting everything ready to bake now. So first things first, I have my oven that has been on 500. It has been on 500 for about an hour. It doesn't need to be at 500 for an hour, but try to get it at an hour from the time you start. The main reason for that is oven temperatures. They really only heat till the thermometer says it's 500, but the actual inside of the oven may not actually be that temperature. And it's really important that we have a very high consistent temperature in our oven when we put our bread in there. Sourdough needs a very high heat to bake. So that's why we preheat it for such a long time. So I'm gonna do one just in a cast iron pan, which I have cold right here. I also have a cast iron Dutch oven in the oven that is preheating with that oven. So I'll pull that out here in a moment. I've got my dough that I have put in my little bag that was resting overnight, or proofing overnight rather. And then I also have some ice that I'm gonna throw into the oven to create steam for the one that's gonna be in this pan. I also have my parchment paper, which I cut in half because I have 2 loaves. And then I have a sharp knife that I'll be using to score. So I actually use a surgical scalpel that I get online because, fun fact, I moonlight as a cardiothoracic surgeon in my spare time. But you can also just use, any sharp knife that you have. But being sharp is important, which is why I use one of these. If you've got just a straight razor blade, that works too. Just be careful. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna get this open. Rip right into it, pull these out. No, maybe. There we go. All right. So when they're in the fridge overnight, they're not gonna rise. They're not gonna do anything. The fermentation process is slowed down, so the yeast is still active when it's doing this in the refrigerator overnight, but it's not actively lifting the bread like it does during the bulk lift, bulk rise, or like it'll do in the oven. All right, so we're just gonna do these one at a time here. Now that I've got these ready to go, I'm gonna get my paper ready, got my dough ready, got my ice. I'm gonna pull the Dutch oven that I have out of the oven and get that ready. So, all right. So obviously be very careful. Dutch ovens, especially cast irons, 500 degrees. Don't want to burn yourself. So, obviously use an oven mitt. That should be self-explanatory. All right, let's go with our first one here. So what we need to do is we are going to kind of gently but quickly, we're going to take this dough and flip it upside down. So like I said in all the previous videos, the top of the bread is always remaining the top of the bread. So this might be the top right now, but this is actually the bottom of our bread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show 2 different ways. One is just I'm going to quickly flip it 180 degrees. And the other one, I'm going to show putting the paper on there before. So you'll just like that. And what's nice is if you've got, your tea towel, it'll put it right there. So it'll look just like that. Depending on the type of towel you have, it'll have a kind of nice little, pattern there. All right, then the next way, you can see here, I'm going to put the paper on that first. And then, again, just kind of quickly flip it over. All right, perfect. All right, so we're gonna do this one first here. So this is scoring. So you need to score, well, you don't need to, but the bread will break open somewhere, and scoring it kind of tells your bread where it should break open when it rises. So it'll get a better shape, and then it kind of gives that classic, artisan bread look to it as well. So we get this just a little damp here. And so for this one right here, I'm just gonna come in at a slight angle. I'm just gonna cut it right there. Just a little bit more. Looking good there. All right, so that's all we need to do, just a little bit there. And then this is probably the shape that you guys are gonna have for yourselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a simple cross, just once here, and it'll kind of open up that way. You can do square patterns. You can look online. There's hundreds of different types of patterns that you can do and have fun with it. But I'm just gonna do a simple, real simple, just once there, once there. All right, that's all we gotta do. Let me close this up. Don't wanna hurt myself. All right, so I'm gonna take this one first. I'm gonna take parchment paper. I'm gonna lift it right up in here. I'm gonna put it in this cast iron pan is cold. You can make it hot if you want, but I'm just showing you for your purposes. If you have a, just a traditional baking sheet, that's fine too. You'll do the same process here. So moving on to my Dutch oven, I'm going to put you here. So again, this is very hot. I'm gonna take this, pull it up here, lift it, drop it right in, put the lid back on right away. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the Dutch oven in first. The Dutch oven with the lid, it's gonna steam itself in there. It's gonna trap the moisture in the bread. So this doesn't need any ice cubes if you're using just the Dutch oven. However, if you are using this right here, it's gonna need steam in your oven and there's not gonna be enough naturally in there. So I'm gonna put that right there. And then, I'm letting too much heat out here, but I'm just gonna dump these right into my oven. So that's gonna happen. Don't worry about that. Just throw it in the bottom. If you want, as you can see all that steam coming out. That's a good sign. All right, so you can put the ice in a pan if you don't wanna throw it directly into the bottom of your oven. But as long as your oven's clean, it's not gonna do anything. It's gonna evaporate pretty quick. But at this point, we wanna make sure we do not open the oven under any circumstances for 20 minutes. So I'm gonna set my timer for 20 minutes and we'll return for the next part of this video. Hey guys, so just found out that the voice recording on the second video did not go through. So this is me doing a voiceover going over the second part of this final baking video. So the bread's been in the oven for about 20 minutes now. So traditionally what we will do is take off the lid to the Dutch oven or open the door just to let some of that steam escape because now we want to get the top of the bread dark and caramelized. So we want it to be a little bit drier in the oven. One mistake I did make, and I say this a couple times here, is I did not preheat my cast iron pan. So please preheat your cast iron pan before you put it in there. That's gonna help with the oven spring and it's gonna help make sure that the scoring that you do works effectively. When I open the oven here in a minute, you're gonna see that the bread on the left, which went into the cold cast iron pan, did not follow the guidelines of scoring. It just popped open, just burst open wherever it wanted. Not a problem, doesn't really change the bread. It's more of a look and shape of the bread that it changes than the actual effect on the bread itself. So like I said, you'll see that here right now. So what I'm doing is I'm letting that steam escape. I'm taking this lid off of here, and I'm also going to set the oven temperature down to 450 to 460 degrees, and then letting it bake for another 20 minutes. Okay, here we are. We are at the final stage of our bread baking. So the bread has been baking at about 460 for about 25 minutes. Had to let it go a little bit longer than normal just because of the oven temperatures. So your baking time will always be a little bit different. So it's gonna be around 40 minutes. It could go all the way up to an hour just to when it's done. So you'll kind of see what our bread will look like. Sourdough is very hearty, so you can bake it up till, to the point of almost burned, and it'll still be really dark and really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and get our oven out and pull my bread out. I'm gonna let it rest right here on my grill grates. Just let it have that airflow underneath so it'll cool down. Start finishing the curing process, if you will. So I just have this. You can pull the whole entire pan out. I'm just gonna, for my own ease, I'm just gonna pull it right out from here. and put it directly onto that grill grates. Same thing here. Gonna pull this out here. All right. All right. So right now, the bread is not, it's pretty good. It's still incredibly hot. It is still baking internally. So this is why it is going to need to just rest and cool right here for about 30 minutes or so. But these came out pretty nice. These are not my favorite loaves I have ever done. You can see the scoring marks here. Didn't really do anything. This is where it blew open on its own. This bread over here, you can see these little blisters on the outside. That's just like a little crispy crust. Nothing wrong with that. It's delicious. It's just a look thing for me. You know, we got a decent oven spring, but not a great oven spring as far as rising goes. You can kind of see right there. I'm not 100% sure, why these aren't as perfect as I want. But again, this is all part of the joy of baking, is kind of trying to figure stuff out. I think it had something to do with me letting the bulk fermentation go maybe about 30 minutes too long, like I mentioned yesterday. And in addition to, the oven not being as hot as it should be, with putting that cold cast iron pan, may have cooled down the oven more than it was supposed to. But again, this is really only going to come down to kind of a look of the bread at this point. Everything internal should be really awesome, be really tasty. Once these cool down, I'm going to cut it open and kind of see what it looks like internally, see if it's got a nice crumb, as they call it. If it's got a really nice crumb on the inside, the bread's fully baked, chewy, tender, delicious, then who cares what it looks like? It's a 100% success. So I will end the videos there, but I will take some pictures of what the internal of this bread looks like. But again, at this point, it's really important the bread is still baking on the inside. It's still very, very hot. So if you cut into it, you're going to release all that heat and your bread's going to kind of fall flat and get really dense. So as tempted as you are to cut into this, please let it rest for 30 minutes. If you really are hungry, grab some of these Crispies on the top and eat those. That's my Lindsay's favorite part, and mine too. Those little Crispies, that's good. Okay, all right, everybody. I think that's it for now. Thanks for joining me on my bread baking journey, and as much fun as you have, never get discouraged, because even though I've been baking for years and have had some incredible loaves, you're not always a perfect bake, and it's not always going to go 100% your way, but you can still revel in the success of having delicious sourdough bread, and just gives you motivation for the next time. All right, thanks so much.